Hey everyone, I didn't realize that my microphone was not on in the last video I just tried to record, so unfortunately I just wasted about 30 minutes of my time. So I'm going to try to be a bit more brief with this analysis. I kind of dived into a bit more of Utah and Alaska and some less safe Republican states, but at this point I'm just going to characterize every state as safe and then continue. So the state of Alaska, there's really no way for Joe Biden to win any of these states. So there's no real point. Indiana and South Carolina could be a bit more competitive, as well as maybe a Missouri or Mississippi. But at this point, Donald Trump's going to have double-digit victories here. No point in really characterizing them. For Joe Biden, the safe states all on the West Coast, as well as on the East Coast, besides New Hampshire and Maine, Illinois as well. Hawaii and New Mexico are going to be putting us safe. I think there's no way for Donald Trump to win here. He's trying to make a run for New Mexico and New York, which I don't quite understand why he would do that and divert funds from Michigan. But for some reason, the Trump campaign thinks that's a good strategy. And look, they were able to win in 2016, surprising many. So we'll see what happens. But moving forward with the likely states. For Donald Trump, unfortunately for the Trump campaign, I do not see any likely states on the map. If Donald Trump were to win this election, it would be by an incredibly insignificant and small margin. There isn't any likely state. The only thing I could see as likely potentially for Donald Trump is this Maine's 2nd district. He is definitely going to win Maine's 2nd district, but it could be a likely to lean margin. At this point, I'm more on the side of caution and saying for the Trump campaign and saying it is a lean margin. Now, continuing for the Joe Biden campaign, I believe every state that Hillary Clinton was able to win, Joe Biden is going to win by a fairly comfortable at least 5 to 6 points. Nevada, Colorado, Minnesota included. Virginia for sure could potentially be a safe margin. Joe Biden is extremely popular here. He's a centrist candidate, and centrist candidates do well in states like Virginia and Arizona. I'm going to be putting it as likely because this is absolutely not competitive whatsoever, but I think likely is more reflective of the margin. It could be it likely is going to be a double-digit margin for Joe Biden. The state of New Hampshire, I think New Hampshire I'm going to be putting as likely to lean at this point. I would also err on the side of caution here and put it as lean. It's probably going to be on the higher end, around 4 points. The reason I'm a bit more bullish on this one is because I feel as though Joe Biden is not necessarily as popular here in the Northeast. He is, at least in the primaries, he got absolutely blown out here. He came in, 5th place, and he's not necessarily the most popular. Doesn't mean the state's not going to necessarily vote for him, because it definitely will. And Hillary Clinton was able to win by around 3,000 votes. But I think that at this point, it's probably going to be around a 4 to 5% victory, which is definitely enough for a lean characterization. Maine's for us at-large district going to be likely for Joe Biden, as well as Maine's 1st is where Portland is. That's going to be safe. Really no conversation here. Any state that Donald Trump lost in 2016 is absolutely not flipping. There isn't really any possibility for Donald Trump to reach 306 electoral votes. Even RCP and 538 agree that in his best case scenario, he doesn't even reach the 300 mark. He likely would be losing the state of Michigan and holding on to everything else, even though I think that is a bit optimistic for the Trump campaign. But moving forward, I think that Michigan is a likely state. Now, it's difficult saying that perhaps Michigan is going to be likely and New Hampshire is going to be lean, but really looking at the polling data, Michigan's matching the national average, and the national average at this point is around 7 to 8 points for Joe Biden. Some polls have him even up at 9 or 10. We saw in July some polls were double-digit leads for Joe Biden. Now, because Michigan is mimicking the national average, and because Joe Biden is going to comfortably win the popular vote, there's no way that Michigan 1 goes to Trump, because Trump is not winning the popular vote. So if Michigan is matching the popular vote margin for Joe Biden, there's no question that that Joe Biden is winning the state. Now, the states of Pennsylvania as well, I would be putting as a lean, as well as Wisconsin. I think these kind of are in the same column. Pennsylvania potentially might be a likely margin, upwards of 5 points. I don't necessarily see that, even though polling has been very, very good for Joe Biden here. He's definitely going to win the state of, um, my apologies, he's definitely going to win the state of Pennsylvania, but he is not going to win it by the same margin that he would win Michigan. And Wisconsin, probably a bit less. It was the biggest margin of victory. It was outside the margin of error in 2016. And Hillary Clinton should have won this state. And it was a 0.7% victory for Donald Trump. And I believe that Joe Biden will probably have around a 3 to 4% victory here. That's what polling is suggesting. As well, Wisconsin, I believe, is going to vote to the right of a state like Arizona. Arizona, I think, is going to probably have a very similar margin to Wisconsin, 3 to 4 points. And I think Joe Biden will be the victor in this state with Mark Kelly as the Senate candidate. There was a poll out yesterday that put Mark Kelly at plus 17 over the incumbent Martha McSally, who, by the way, it was an ignorant decision by Governor Doug Ducey to nominate her for John McCain's seat because she already proved that she lost. Polls suggested that it was going to be a close race, but she lost by about 2 points. So to say that she would win against a stronger corporate candidate, that is Mark Kelly, who has a lot of name recognition as a former astronaut, would be absurd. So Arizona is going to be a pretty comfortable lean for Joe Biden. Moving forward, I believe that one lean state for Donald Trump is going to be the state of Texas. Texas potentially might whittle down if Donald Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic gets worse, which I can't even imagine it getting worse than it is now. But I believe this will probably be around a 4 to 5% victory for Donald Trump. It's not going to be comfortable whatsoever, but I don't feel comfortable putting it as a tilt margin for Donald Trump, because I think Joe Biden, while he's going to outperform Hillary Clinton, who essentially slashed the margin in half from 2012, Mitt Romney won by around 16 points. Hillary Clinton lost the state by around 9. So it's not impossible for Joe Biden to win the state, but it would have to be a blowout election where Joe Biden is winning double digits in the popular vote. Do I see him winning double digits in the popular vote? No. Is it possible? Yes, absolutely it's possible. But I don't see Donald Trump losing that much support. I think he's going to lose a lot of support, but he's not going to lose enough to lose the state of Texas. In 2024, 2028, this is definitely going to be an effective toss-up, and we're going to see states like Texas, Arizona migrate more towards the Democrats as states like Ohio and Iowa move slightly more to the right, which is a good segue into my characterization for these states, which I would be putting as tilt, as well as the state of Georgia. Now, these states, I believe, fall into the same characterization here. Georgia, I believe, will vote to the left of Ohio and Iowa. It voted to the left of Ohio and Iowa in 2016. It's going to vote to the left again. However, I think that these states, even in a scenario where Joe Biden is winning double digits in the popular vote, Donald Trump still manages to hang on to these states by very, very small margins within 1 to 2%, which is telling, which shows you that he does still have support in these states. He won big, big victories here. And unless Joe Biden is winning by a massive popular vote margin, and notice how I keep repeating the popular vote, as the popular vote increases, not only does Joe Biden's odds increase of winning the presidency, but Donald Trump's odds of winning comfortable states that he held in 2016 also drop significantly. In a scenario where Joe Biden's only winning by around 4 points nationally, potentially a state like Iowa and Ohio could be likely to lean. But at this point, with Joe Biden's commanding lead in the race, these have to be tilt states, as well as the state of Georgia, which is going to be about 1 to 2% victory for Donald Trump here. Now, the state of Florida. With Donald Trump's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, before the COVID-19 pandemic took place here, the Joe Biden campaign was not necessarily confident in their ability to win in Florida. They were diverting more funds towards the Rust Belt, which, granted, is a good idea. We can't ignore the Rust Belt like we did in 2016. However, Florida is slowly more competitive, and polling has had Biden even +7 into the likely margin. Do I think that he's going to win by +7 here? No. Do I think he's going to win by 1 to 2 here? Yes, because the Donald Trump's handling of the pandemic has been absolutely horrible in the state of Florida. The Republican governor Ron DeSantis' approval rating is absolutely horrible in the gutters, as well as Donald Trump's. So for that reason, I'm going to be giving it as a tilt. Now, granted, it's always a tilt. In 2008, when when Barack Obama won a big victory, 365 electoral votes, Florida was only 3 points. That was a tilt state, tilt to lean state. So there's no question that it's going to be competitive. Same thing with Nebraska's second district. I think that's going to tilt. Not much to talk about here, except it was a lean margin in 2016. Joe Biden drastically outperforming Hillary Clinton will narrowly put that in his column. I believe it could be a lean margin. I'm going to be giving it as a tilt. Now, the state of North Carolina. North Carolina, I believe, is the most effective toss-up. It is the closest the polls have had been going back and forth. Trump +1, Biden +1, Trump +0.1, Biden +0.3. Very close state. If I had to give someone an edge in this state, even though I think this state might not even be determined with mail-in ballots, of course. With Donald Trump, he's, even when he loses this election, or if he loses this election, he would claim, massive voter fraud, fraudulent ballots, people voting twice, popular vote victories in California too much, whatever the reason might be. There's going to be delayed results in the state. However, when everything is said and done, I think that even in other swing states like the Rust Belt, like Florida, like Arizona, that Joe Biden are doing very well in, North Carolina still has had a slight Trump edge, and for that reason, very slight, I'm going to be giving this as a tilt to to Donald Trump. And with that said, I could definitely see a state like North Carolina going to Joe Biden, even a state like Ohio and Iowa and Georgia. It's just telling to see how a state that Donald Trump was able to win in Michigan by, you know, point 0.3, of course. Even states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, it's just telling to see how drastically those have moved away from him. And even though North Carolina might go to Joe Biden, and it's going to be by probably a couple thousand votes either way, I think that this is going to be for Donald Trump. And for that reason, it puts the final electoral numbers at 219 for Donald Trump and 319 for Joe Biden.